Hello everybody, welcome to this week's segment of Star Watch, which is our weekly astrological transit report. My name is Jane. If you're new here, welcome. We are super happy to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started. I know we are well into Gemini season and we have our eclipse season well behind us, so we've got some cool things coming up for the week. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get into this chart here. So as we know, we are well on our way into Gemini season. We've got the sun sitting at 4 degrees. Now we have some interesting transits that we're really building up to. We've got Venus moving into Taurus this week. We have Mars in conjunction with Jupiter. We have a new moon at 9 degrees of Gemini as well. A couple other things. Mercury is starting to slow down, going direct on the 3rd. So he's, still not officially going direct this week, but, he's preparing for that. We've got Saturn slowing way down, preparing to go retrograde on the 4th. As well. Okay, so we've got some interesting things at play right now. I just want to start with the sun in Gemini. Let's just kind of really harness this. Now, right now in this week, the sun will remain in the mercurial decan of Gemini. Now, in this software, I can change the different types of, wheels and all that. So this is what I normally display. I normally have the traditional Western astrology or the more modern Western astrology decan rulers here. But I'm going to go use the Egyptians kind of subsets here to kind of get an added layer. I'm still going to keep in mind the decans. I can't display both at the same time, but we're still going to be able to do this. And I really wanted to pull up this layer here to kind of give a little bit more context to some of the things that we're experiencing. Now, right now, this sun, yes, it's in the mercurial decan and Mercury ruled Gemini, but over the next few days, it's going to move into the Jupiter subset. Okay, so there's going to be some Mercury-Jupiter stuff going on at the same time that there's a lot of Mars-Jupiter stuff going on up here. Now, this energy is, it needs to be very open because Gemini is about possibility, really. It's about options, it's about choices, right? We often, if we think about the tarot, we have the Lover's card. One of the very first definitions, any tarot book that you would open says choices. Okay, it's about choices. It's about options. It's about keeping your path open and available to the great adventure. And being in the Jupiterian sort of subset of this, I love the quality of adventure. And I think that's the word of the week. If you can, okay, now this reading is more for people who are dedicated toward holding space and holding higher vibration and being a source of love and light in the world. And look, guys, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There is always room in this world for deep healing and inner shadow work and, really kind of bringing yourself into a sense of wholeness. That stuff is wonderful and it is good. But I think people who have been through, significant events or significant dark nights of the soul or really difficult life events, come to a conclusion. It's an inevitable conclusion that love and light is really all there is, right? It's really the only thing, and everything else in so many ways is like the trap. It's like the illusion of this matrix, the Saturnian illusion of this material world, right? Remembering that we are eternal beings, we are direct lineage of source energy, we have lives beyond this world and beyond this reality, right? And so there's a lightness, hopefully, that can come through, but you have to choose it. Okay, you have to choose it. This is about choice. A lot of people are not going to choose it. A lot of people are going to choose the darkness. They're going to choose the pain. They're going to choose the fear. They're going to choose the, all the things that come along with that, the shame and the guilt and the insecurity and all. They're all going to choose it, right? And it's going to be really up to you. If you want your life to be a certain way, to have that sense of freedom, to have that sense of love, to have that sense of peace and serenity in your life, you have to choose it. And right now you're being elevated in consciousness in a really, really big way, but only if you're open to receiving it. See, the problem is that when we have these opportunities, sometimes we can cower and we can pull back. And right now, though, Mars coming conjunct Jupiter in the Mars decan, Jupiter subset, Mars ruled Aries, I mean, look, Jupiter can really go either way. Jupiter is just an expansion of whatever. And Mars can, I think we saw the unfortunate, tragic, negative manifestation of the Mars Jupiter with the moon in there, with the shooting that just happened. Unfortunately, there's dualities to all of these things. And so for us as individuals, we have to look and say, how can I take a transit like this that may have some lower vibrational manifestations, but how can I apply the higher manifestations consciously into my life? How can I take these principles and prepare myself for them? Because Mars Jupiter is a beautiful portal opening for us in terms of higher levels of wisdom. That's what Jupiter represents. He represents not only material goods and material blessings and material rewards, but also levels of understanding and the path toward nirvana, if you will. And I feel like there's this quality here of really, really coming in contact with a deeper, more pure, more innocent, more real essence of self, which is what Aries is really all about. Pisces was all about the unraveling. So many people were having identity crises, who am I? What am I even doing? What is this business even for? Why am I working so hard? Why do I do this life? Why am I staying in this relationship? All this existential sort of stuff. And then all that energy moves out, boom, Aries is activated, and we start really thinking about ourselves, and we start thinking about not of our ego and not of restoring things and not of trying to keep our reputation intact, but more about really what do we want from this more primal, divine level, this more real place rooted in true reality, if you will. What is it that we really want to be in this world? And we're going to be able to continue to define that as Jupiter over the next few years makes its way all the way through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and then it's going to hit Leo, which is where we're going to really be able to fully self-express, right? This is like us relearning who we are over the next few years. And with Saturn coming through Pisces over the next 4 years, 23, 24, 25, and 26, it will go in between Pisces and Aries there. But as Saturn makes its way through, that kind of whole structure that we held intact for so long, for 28, 29 years, starting to come undone, complete unraveling. And this is the beginning. This is the seed, the planting of the seed of this new sense of self, which is more deeply rooted because of all we've learned, right? It's more deeply rooted in source energy. And being a holder, being a keeper of the light, being a healer, being a nurturer, being a lover, being a leader, whatever it is that, is really needing to come forth within you is starting to really come forth and to be understood by you of what your true role in this world really is. Now, we also have Venus coming through into Taurus this week as well, thank goodness. I feel like she's been the apple of my eye all year. For some reason, I'm just this is a Venus year, right? 222 is 6, ruled by Venus. And she started this year off with this really nasty Venus retrograde over here in Capricorn, conjunct Pluto. And if we look at the subset with the Egyptian system, right, she was kind of in her, it was Mars and Saturn was at play, plus Saturn ruled it here. And while I like Saturn and Venus together sometimes, I think that transit was just a little bit on the restrictive side. I don't know about you guys, but it was a little bit on the restrictive side. And so this is really the first time that I feel like she's been truly able to shine. This whole year. Even when she was in Pisces, when she was in exaltation, I actually thought she was going to be a little bit more prominent. But I think she was overshadowed by a lot of the Jupiter, Mars, Neptune stuff that was going on, or, whatever was building up to that. And she just didn't get a break. So I feel like now, so she's coming into not only the Venus-ruled Taurus and the Venus-ruled Deacon, but also the Venus-ruled subsection here. So it's Venus, 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 Venus all the way through. So she's kind of got this straight shot of energy for a few days. And I think she's going to help us to really reestablish some balance in our lives that we really, really need. She's going to be coming into kind kind of some nice little positive aspects here with Mars and Jupiter as well. She makes her way through the first few degrees, and I think she's going to get a little bit of a breather, and she's going to be able to like say, okay, let's get our finances in order. Let's get that back to even. Let's get our, relationships back in order. Let's get this conversation done. Like, we really need to make sure that everything is being brought to justice at this time, and that there is some quality of gain to be had in a positive way, a positive gain. And so I think that's where her mind is really going to be. She's only in this territory for a little while, right? So we click forward. She's going to be moving through this fairly quickly. And then she's going to be entering into that territory of the Uranus conjunction here, June 5th, which is actually, well, June 4th, probably you'll start really, really feeling it, especially as Saturn goes retrograde in the Saturn decan and moving back into the Mars decan here, or not decan, but the subset of Aquarius. So she's only going to be doing that for a few days. So I would really, really enjoy it while you can, and hopefully it actually does have some positive benefit for you in your life. Especially if you're dealing with relationship stuff or financial stuff, especially. This would be a time when I think maybe two people could really come together. Yes, it is a Mercury retrograde, but let me tell you something about this Mercury retrograde, okay, and how this is going to apply to Venus. This Mercury retrograde is so great for us to get out of our own freaking way. Okay, look, this is Taurus energy. We know that Taurus can be very bold. We know it can be very stubborn. We know it can be really stuck. But Mercury retrograde comes through and it says, look, like, you can't be doing this anymore. Like, you can't hold yourself up in this way anymore. You can't continue to be your own roadblock anymore. You have to get out of your own way. And beautiful thing, Gemini season, new moon in Gemini comes out and says, good news, you've got options. You don't have to keep doing it this way. You can switch and do it this way. You don't have to go down this road. You can go down another road. Where's your sense of adventure? Where's your sense of playfulness? Where's your sense of opportunity? Where's your sense of mystery and intrigue and curiosity? And let's do that, because this stubborn thing just is not working for you anymore. And if you really do want this expansion in your life, and you want to become more aligned with your soul purpose, and you want your relationships to really work out well, you have to come into this new place. And if you can't come into a new place, how on earth could you ever expect anyone else to come into a new place? And if no one's willing to come into a new place, well, then you can just keep on doing what you're doing, and you can keep repeating over and over and over. And I'm going to tell you what, guys, all the political stuff that we're going to see over the next few years, it's just going to be the same stuff over and over and over. And it's going to be a direct reflection of what happens when we choose to not evolve, right? We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens when people choose to remain in the darkness, when people choose to remain to talk about change all day long, but never actually do, right? So this is the opportunity to actually make the change, to actually amend our own individual policies, our own individual ways of life. I'm not talking about anything political here at all. Okay, I'm talking about us as a single person with a sense of free will, with a sense of choice. And this is the Mercury retrograde that really comes out and says, look, I'm going to just shove it in your face. I'm going to show you what needs to be changed. I'm going to show you what needs to evolve, right? Because we know that this Mercury retrograde is happening. We've had a lot of activity on Algol, the fixed star. And that fixed star, it's brutal. It's not a nice star. It's a really difficult star. And we had eclipses in November last year. We had the eclipse over here in Scorpio, opposite, over here opposite of the Algol in May. And I think we can look back to November of 2021. We can look back to last month and say, okay, yeah, I guess clearly there is an intensity with that particular star. There's definitely an intensity that comes out. So there's no escaping. There's no escaping that part of ourselves that really needs to evolve, that part of us that needs to get unstuck with something, because, we know in our heart of hearts that it's not going to serve us well. We know. And I think that as Mars comes into contact with Chiron well, it'll come into like a loose conjunction this week. It will come into full conjunction next week. As it comes into that conjunction with Chiron and Aries, there's going to be this quality of like healing that part of you that held on to something for so long. And that's going to have a lot to do with the Mercury retrograde being in that Mercury subset here. We're going to have to truly forgive ourselves for being so closed-minded with something. Forgive ourselves for being so blind to something. Also, this Mercury retrograde is happening in a square, or actually Mercury slowing down, preparing to go direct is happening in a square with Saturn too, as Saturn is slowing down, preparing to go retrograde itself. So like all this Mercury Saturn stuff, Mercury is like, Saturn is like the black cube, right? It's like the Freemason symbolic black cube. It's very dark, it's very dense, and Mercury doesn't really play like that. That's not his game. He plays more etheric, he plays more high level, and he would rather roam the heavens than be trapped in any kind of a cage. Okay, so that the cages are absolutely being amplified in our own lives right now. But good news is Aquarius wants us to revolutionize that, doesn't want to be stuck anymore. But I think right now with Saturn and Aquarius, it's more about those things coming into consciousness. 2023, as Saturn moves into Pisces, that's going to be about the actual undoing or the unraveling of the cage itself. So, it can really, right now we're kind of preparing, but 2023 and 2024 are going to be the years where we actually truly, officially let those things go and absolutely heal from those things. But it's a process, right? This is the whole thing. I can't talk about astrology really on a week-to-week basis. Maybe this is a bad format to do it. I don't know. But we really can't talk about it on this like lower scale, because these bigger cycles are so important as well to pay attention to, and how all these little things sort of stack up and add on and sort of contribute to the more macro side of things. But really, this is like seed planting time, this beautiful conjunction. I love this for us in Mars, Jupiter, because it really gets us in tune with really who we are and redefining that in a more soul purpose driven way. I'm feeling very strong Fool card energies from the tarot, strong Fool energies with this particular aspect. Okay, so Venus coming in, doing us a lot of favors. We have this new moon happening in Gemini on the 30th at 9 degrees. This is happening in the Jupiter. Oh no, it's not. It's happening in the Venus decan, or the Venus subset. So we have the Mercury decan, and then we have the okay, so a lot of Venus energy actually. Oh, that's good. A lot of Venus energy. Venus is strong. We've got Venus, Mercury here. This new moon would be a really great time to communicate, even though it is still a Mercury retrograde. If there is a partnership issue that you're having, any kind of a fight, any kind of a problem, any kind of, people not willing to bend, this is likely going to be a new moon energy you could leverage to really like say, okay, let's really sit down and let's really talk about this. Let's really find balance. Let's really not limit ourselves here in this way. Let's figure out a solution. Let's make some good choices here. I love that for you. The moon will be in the Venus decan. Sun will still be in Jupiter. So I think there's going to be some really good things that can come out of that for you there in terms of how you communicate. And then we're going to be building up to the full moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on the 14th at 23 degrees. But that's not happening for a couple of weeks. But I think this Sagittarian energy is really going to amplify, right? So it's going to amplify what's kind of going on now. So we're kind of in this interesting relationship with Jupiter right now, kind of doing this interesting dance with, okay, which way is Jupiter really going to take us? How are we really going to grow? How are we really going to expand at this particular point in time? I'm trying to see here. one of the things looking forward into the future a little bit, we are in Gemini season, and one of the things that have my eyes on as well is Mars retrograde, which is happening in the latter degrees of Gemini later on in October, and that's going to be happening in a square with Neptune and in a trine with Saturn, and kind of in this awkward angle here with Pluto as well. I mean, this Mars retrograde is going to be a really prominent Mars retrograde. It's going to be very, very interesting. And I'm getting a sense that right now we're starting to see the themes of that, how we relate, how we communicate, how we interact, the choices that we do make. And there's going to be just a lot of agitation in October, a lot of movement, a lot of things evolving very, very quickly, a lot of instability. But right now, I think this is like the time to prepare for that, to kind of get on board with the mysteries of life. Because as Mars goes retrograde in Gemini, there may be a bunch of stuff that we're going to want to jump on board with. But that's only if we're trapped in any kind of an illusion, or if we're trapped in any kind of like grasping or desperate situation. If we are truly rooted in source energy, truly rooted in the divine light, we're not going to be misguided in any way, shape, or form. And we're actually going to be able to make a ton of progress throughout the end of the year. I mean, we're going to be able to really, like, not to mention that that's going to be the time when Jupiter is retrograding back into Pisces as well. So Jupiter is going to be at play with that whole Mars retrograde too. And, it's going to kind of surface the energies that are at play right now, but in a more agitative way, in a more tension driven way. But tension can be good because it can get us to really act. It can get us to create. It can get us to like really get off our butts and really do a lot of things. But if we're lost, then it can be a very distracting period of time. If we are not lost, it can be a very productive period of time. So again, it's all about choices that we make today, choices that we make in this moment, in order to really come into terms with our higher self and our higher purpose. So I want to just kind of fast forward. I'm going to go a lot forward into October. I just really want to look here because we'll be in... Yeah, so I'm like looking at his degrees here. Yeah, 25 degrees of Gemini is when he's going to be going retrograde. So he'll be in an inconjunct here with Pluto. Saturn will be going direct by then, and then we'll have Neptune retrograde still. Here's Jupiter at 29 degrees of Pisces. Man, that's going to be a week. That last week of October, that's going to be like a whole big thing. So pay attention. Keep your eyes on that. That's going to be... there's going to be some big world events probably that happen for you as an individual. You're really going to feel that shift. You're going to feel a little bit like you're going crazy, but I think ultimately that's why it's so important to get rooted in things now and be open to what life has to really guide you toward, because right now faith is like the number one thing that's going to be able to lead you out of the chaos and out of the confusion that's going to be going on later on in the year. Not to mention the United States, we're going to be having an election coming up, so definitely some kind of a mini October surprise is probably pretty predictable at that point as well. So anyway, all right, I think that's pretty much everything for the week. I mean, yeah, I think we're going to have more to talk about as Venus comes into the conjunction with Uranus in the North Node, as Mars comes in contact with Chiron, but we can talk about all of that next week. And for now, I'm going to leave you guys with that. All right? Thank you so much. You guys know I love you. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon.